Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mboris podcast once again. This is Hashmad Mboris, your host. And tonight, I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Haqmal, a public health expert, researcher, and educator whose work has taken from Afghanistan to some of the world's leading academic institutions like Oxford University, Cambridge University, and University of London. He has contributed to public health research and higher education, and currently he's pursuing his PhD at Oxford University. Dr. Haqmal Aziz, thank you so much for being with us and for accepting our invitation. It's such a great honor to have you tonight with us.
Thank you very much, Mubaris. And it's great pleasure to be with you. And thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I would like to start from your childhood, as always. Like, I would love to start from the beginning because people often see where someone is today, but not the journey behind it. And every person's story starts somewhere. For sure, your story also starts somewhere, maybe in Afghanistan or maybe outside of Afghanistan. And those early experiences can shape who we are today. And for sure, it can have a great impact in our next stage of our lives. I would like to ask specifically that what was your childhood like, and what are some of the experiences that had the biggest impact on you growing up as an Afghan child?
My childhood was very complicated, to be very honest with you, because I was growing up in Pakistan. I started my primary school in Pakistan as a
Mhm.
refugee. In Afghanistan, I was just 5 years old when there was bombing, there was former Soviet Union, invasion in Afghanistan. So the situation, because I was living in a remote village in Logar province, security situation was very, very bad in almost the area where we were living. It was bombing. There was every time regularly conflict between Mujahideen and also the pro-government, forces and Russia invasion. So everything was very complicated. And we moved to Pakistan when I was almost going to be like 6 years old. And then in Pakistan, I started my primary school where I was also selling water because our economic situation was very, very poor, and it was very tough for us, to afford also the living cost there, although we were living in a refugees camp. And it was also very, some people might not believe it today because even in the school where I was studying, it was just on the ground. So there was no tent, no room, and it was also unbelievable because when the weather was cold or maybe rainy, so in most of the time, we were going to school without having any standard building.
Mhm.
And sometimes we were going because my school was just close to the mosque. And when the weather was also getting worse, so we were moving, to the mosque. And then inside mosque, there was like 6, 7 classes. And so all the students in one mosque, and we were studying there. The quality of education was also, unfortunately, not very, very good. But I always had a big dream in my life, even when I was seeing, this Pakistani society and the boys and girls when they were going to the good school. Sometime I was asking them, how is the education in your school? And what I was told most of the time that, well, education is very good, but we don't have place for the refugees.
Mhm.
And but I was telling them, so what is your dream in the future? So some of them are telling me, I want to be a doctor, because this was the time when they were buying water from me and they were asking me, what are you doing with your books? And I was telling them, well, I'm also a student like you, but I am. This is like just finished my school and I came here, to sell this water to feed back also my family. And then the interesting thing was their dream. I was always asking about their dream and looking to the situation, our situation, where there was almost no school. And but I was telling them, well, if you can make it, we can also do it the same thing. And probably I was telling them, probably when I completed my school in the university, I will be together with you guys. And sometimes they were laughing and they were telling, if you don't have, those facility because quality of education is not good, you might not have, that capacity, to pass the exam, like after completing your school. So I was in a kind of complex situation where I was seeing, people also
Hmm.
Rich people, they were sending their even Afghan refugees, some of them political leaders and others, they were also sending, their children to very good, high standard schools. And we were in those refugees, very poor schools, everything was very, very uh, well, lower standard thing, substandard. And so this was the journey where I started my journey. But at the
Wow.
time when I was coming back home, I was discussing mostly with my mom, and we were telling them, well, mom, I meet today many students, with from that big school, standard good school, and then they had this dream. So why I cannot have that dream even in my school? Because in my school there was like Afghan teachers. They were trying also to encourage us, to give us a kind of support, but we were forgetting all the time, about the resources. Nobody was thinking about the resources, but every time we were focusing on our dream. So the dream started from that small refugee schools in Pakistan. And so that was the time, to be very honest with you,
Wow.
that I was trying to
Such
be a
a
little bit different.
such a great story from the refugee camps of Pakistan to, world's leading institutions like Oxford, teaching at Cambridge, at London University. It's a wow story, honestly. It's a wow story. By the way, Dr. Haqmal Aziz, sometimes our career path is carefully planned, and sometimes it develops unexpectedly, through maybe some experiences and opportunities that we encounter in our life. But looking back, there is often a moment when things start to become clear. When did you first realize that public health was the field you want to dedicate your life to?
Well, when I completed my medical school in Kabul, I started my work as my first career also in Bamiyan,
Oh.
in Wats district of Bamiyan. And I was seeing the situation where people, we were not properly able also to provide, all those basic services to the community
Mm.
from the hospital. And I was thinking maybe we need to move, out of the school of the hospital building and provide, basic preventive services, to the community. And it was, and then there was also one outbreak of the disease, outbreak of typhoid fever in the area where I was as a chief medical officer. Uh, Immediately when I completed my medical school. And when I visited the area, the village, unfortunately, the hygiene was not very good. And so I found, the causes of those outbreak of the disease. So and I discussed it also with my senior colleagues, specifically
Mhm.
foreigners. And then I also got, I was working with Medicine Sans Frontier, and so they have very good guideline, and so they have everything. And that was the area, and that was the time when I was just shift my focus from clinical medicine to preventive medicine to public health,
Mhm.
where we were able also in that outbreak, to save the life of everyone. So the mortality was zero, because what we did, we touch, the source of the infection in the ground, in the community. We work with them, we provide them clean water, and we also work for, to improve, the hygiene in this area. So that was the time which gave me a great pleasure. So with a very short experience, I had
Mhm.
a few months experience in Bamiyan,
Mhm.
in the remotest district, one of the remotest district in Bamiyan, Waras. So that
Uh-huh.
totally changed my focus. And I thought, oh, in the hospital it's okay, but I need to learn more how to prevent, like, this, to provide better services at the community, to prevent disease in the community, rather than treating, few patients in the hospital. So so everything has changed in Varas district of Bamiyan, so that's why I laugh all the time, one of the district where I really, it changed everything in my life.
Yeah. You've studied and worked in different environments through your academic journey, as I have read your background, and I'm sure those experiences taught you much more than, uh, you know, textbooks or maybe the lectures in university classes. Looking back on your years as a student, uh, what lesson has stayed to you? From your studies while you're a student at university or maybe the school.
Two important things. First was nothing is impossible. If we want to bring any changes
I
in,
love
in
that.
our
I love
in
that.
our family, in our society, in our country, so everything is possible. regardless of the resources that sometimes we are having in our hands. Even if we don't have resources, then we need to be more smart how to do things, with minimum resources. And the second thing, it is also a kind of creativities. I always think a lot about creativity because in normal path, like somebody like me, I would have not been able, to be a medical doctor and to come here, also to Oxford. So every time I was thinking that, well, if one option is not working, I was thinking about the second option. And I was trying to get job done rather than finding excuses. Unfortunately, in most of the developing countries, including Afghanistan, we are sometimes focusing a lot on bringing excuses that this is not possible because of this reason.
Yeah.
So, and we don't focus a lot to get job done. So if we stay very positive and strongly, like determined that this thing is possible and totally forget about negative things, excuses in those things. So everything is possible. Even coming here to Oxford was also, that was one of the options. And that I was thinking, well, it's possible because when you move from one stage to another stage, like for example, when I got admission at Kabul University and I passed the Concord exam in Afghanistan, we call it Concord exam, enrollment exam for the university. And I thought, well, if that is possible, then why it's not possible if I can do, my specialization in Oxford or in Cambridge, where Oxford in Cambridge in Afghanistan, to be very honest with you, sometimes it is very tough even to dream about it.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
when you move from one step to another step, that is also giving you confidence, improve your confidence, and then you can think everything is possible. And other thing, when I was a child, I always think about innovation. Well, this is not possible with the resources that I have. What innovative approach I could use to get this job done, So even if it was a kind of engagement with the leaders, engagement with the communities, engagement with the academia, or also finding some better option, to get job done, So this always I was focused to get job done rather than bringing several excuses to back to my family that, well, this is not possible. And I still believe that if somebody try to get something done, regardless of their resources, if he or she is really committed, then they can also get job done, whatever objective they have in their life.
Wow. But before asking my second question, I would like to mention something honestly. That the one thing that I really, guys, appreciate about Dr. Haqmal is the kindness and the genuine care that he has for others. The first time that he heard about my university journey, he didn't even know me personally, but he simply heard that an Afghan student had been admitted to some prestigious universities, and he decided to reach out and he called me. You know, like talking an hours and encouraging me and stayed in touch. And night after night, he spent, hours, talking with me, sharing advice, guidance and the support. And he never had, honestly, any obligation to do that. But he did it because I'm 100% sure that he truly cares about, the young people and about his community and the future of his pupil. And if I say this also honestly, that his kindness uh, reminded me that there are still people who sincerely care from the bottom of their heart, who care about their pupil, who care, about this generation that they think they have been forgotten. And I would like to say a very special thanks, Dr. Hakmal Aziz, for that kindness and for it's amazing. And I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. And now, if I continue, yeah, if you have
Please,
anything,
please, please, please,
yeah.
please, please, please.
If I continue with my questions, you have had the opportunity to work on issues that directly affect people's life. You know, you know this better than me that the public health is not always about, I can say research or writing policies, but it's also about the human being, the life of people. When you think about your work in Afghanistan, is there a particular achievement or moment that you uh, feel proud about it and you think about yourself, yeah, I did it. I was the one that I did that job for my people.
Well, thank you very much. Very important question. And I think if you allow me, I will separate your question into two parts. I will also comment on your uh, the information that I receive about your education. First, and I think it's very important for our young generation in Afghanistan, most of the doors that you are seeing, most of the gates that they are seeing, it is not closed, it's open. Just they need a small push. I have done that one and I pushed multiple, many doors in my life. And it was easy. When I pushed them, I received positive support from most of the people. I will not say 100%, but maybe from 80% people, I receive positive support. And I'm also saying the same thing to our young generation in Afghanistan, to whenever they have any trap, any challenges in their life, it is their responsibility to approach people. And most of the peoples that they are in senior positions and they have experience or they are in the position to guide them, to help them. So they are willing to help them because they understand, the current situation in Afghanistan, how tough is the situation. And despite, the critical crisis that we are having today in Afghanistan, I'm very optimistic for the future of Afghanistan because I see, the young generation. Mabares. I was also discussing this morning with somebody from Daikundi, from Zabal, from Nuristan last week.
Wow.
So every day when I discuss with them, they give me a kind of assurance that, well, the future of Afghanistan is very bright because they are working very hard. They are not collecting, the number of excuses that this is the challenges. Everyone is trying to get their job done. So I'm sure you will also, I'm 100% sure that one day I will see you in the prestigious university where you are accepted also in British Columbia University. And so everything is possible. So for young generation, whenever they need any support, they need to approach people. They don't need to think about which tribe, from which province, from which area, from because Afghanistan itself is a small country. So we are like one family and always try to approach people you need support. Second thing, when you mention about the achievement, the happiest life that I had in my like maybe the happiest job that I had in Afghanistan. It was also in Bamiyan, in Waras district, in a small district
Yeah.
where people were very poor, and but they had very kindness, and they also their hospitality, with those limited resources that they had there, was always appreciated. So in most of my example here, I am still bringing the example of the Waras district. And it is because as a medical doctor, when I was trying to save their life, most of them, they were coming in a very complicated situation. And unfortunately, I went to Waras district after the second day of my graduation. So with 1 day experience, I went there and my position was also chief medical officer. So most of the complicated cases were coming to me. And I try my best to find the better solution, whether having any senior doctors to guide me or to help me or to supervise me. I was reading a lot about books, so there is some textbook like in any field that we have in medicine as well. So current in Harrison, so within this winter where I think I spent there 7 month most productive time of my life, where I was studying a lot at night up to 1 o'clock, sometime up to 2 o'clock, and during the day when I was having, any complicated patient, again, sometime I was referring to book. So this 9 month or 8 months in only in Varas district helped me a lot, even to guide me about my future dream. Because when I was trying, for example, any children's coming, there was also pneumonia cases, diarrheal cases during the summer when they were coming. So the mortality was very limited, and because the quality of the medicine that we also had from the NGOs, Medicine Sans Frontier, one of the international organization, it was very good. So whenever we were giving any medicine, so the result was very good. So every night when I was sleeping and I was seeing, some patient coming in the morning, checking them also in the evening before I go to bed. So that was something that I really enjoy that life, although it was very remote area, limited resources, everything was limited. But the way when I was trying to help others, I saw positive result, So that positive result was every time, giving me positive energy for the second day to do something more than, the day that I did before.
Hmm. Wow. That's great. Actually, we have talked about your childhood. We talked about your educational background. We also talked about your uh, work background. I think now it's time to shift on your life at Oxford as a PhD student and as a uh, researcher. Oxford, as you have mentioned before, is a dream destination for many students around the world, you know. But beyond the famous name, there is, you know, everyday reality of being a researcher and PhD student at Oxford University. Let me ask you that, what has surprised you most about your experience at Oxford University?
Well, the environment of Oxford is very, very positive. So the two things that I really enjoyed during the first my first week in Oxford, trust and ask, or ask and trust, So whenever you have any question, any limitations, if there is any challenge that you have, always trust, the academia and also the college, So we are affiliated with college. I'm also personally in one of the college, register in a college, and then from college we are also go to the department. So in any academic environment, so whenever we are there, we need to tell them, honestly, this is the challenges and I need support. Don't we should not hide anything from them. In some instance, I also hide something from them, but later I understood that was a challenge for me, why I did not tell them in the beginning.
Yeah.
So my advice is also the same for the young generation when they are coming to the academia. People in academia is very, very supportive, and they understand, the challenges in different countries. So we should not hide anything from them. If it is in academia, if it is something related to the, lessons or research project, or maybe life conditions, financial crisis that we are having, everything. So people here are very, very generous. And let me tell you why they are generous. If you ask most of them, they have gone through the similar challenges. They understand that coming
Mhm.
people from Afghanistan, Sudan, Somalia, and other, poor country, the challenge is always there. But what we need, just to be very brave, to tell them with the confidence that, well, this is a challenges I'm having, but my dream is the same, that I want to achieve it. And always ask for help. If we don't ask for help, you won't get it. I think in British people are saying generally here, I really enjoy, when I'm listening to them. If you don't ask, you won't get it. So all the time, even if you lost, your way, you can ask them, how I can reach, to that building. People will come and also will try to guide you. Even some people will go with you, show you, the department.
Yeah.
The same thing. If you also face some financial crisis, they understand, that we are from Afghanistan. Scholarship sometime, some scholarship was just discontinued because of these foreign aids stop, from the US, because there was some scholarship from developing countries. So if we tell them honestly, this is the challenge and this is my dream, if they also understand your commitment, because commitment is first thing that they need to see, your effort.
Mhm.
So if you have a important dream, your effort, some of the challenges that they come on your way, always tell them. And I have done the same thing, so I usually receive, not 100%, to be very honest with you, because if two people, three people give me, negative things out of 100, I will always, consider the majority. So majority of people are helping a lot. And if we receive one negative things, behind every negative things, there are also multiple positive news. So the second thing we can ask them, oh, you cannot help me. Is it possible if you can refer me to another department or another sources or somebody else to guide me? So again, every negative answer is not always negative. In fact, behind this negative answer, there is multiple opportunity. We need to take them, to go down and also to find, solution.
Mhm.
So absolutely very positive environment. And I, so because once you are here, it's not only your PhD period, so you will be for your entire life, alumni of those university. So for the next, up to the end of our life, we can approach them, we can get their support, so because this is a kind of membership of this university.
Mhm. And Dr. Haqmal Aziz, I'm also curious to hear that when you're not working, when you're not studying, what do you enjoy doing, you know, to recharge and stay balanced? As I'm seeing, and as I have, as you have also told me that you're too busy with the studies, research, you know, university, and some maybe other some personal dilemmas. Can you tell our audience that what do you do when you're not studying and working?
So I do two things. First, my physical exercise. I
Oh,
regularly do one. Yes, I'm cycling. I think one of the good cyclists also in Oxford. So I cycle
oh,
a
that's
lot
good.
in this area. And second thing that I also enjoyed, I also read a lot about the other people life. And there are some successful people in the world. And for example, during the last 2 3 days, I had some break in my. I found some time during this weekend, and I focus a lot on Steve Jobs' life. And Steve Jobs' life story always, gave me a kind of, further determinations to make, my dream bigger and also to reach there. And because if we see, most of the people, including Steve Jobs, I read a lot about his life. I watched his documentary, movie, family impression, the difficulty that he had in his life. So everything is giving us a kind of positive energy. And I don't focus a lot on negative things. Even if somebody is telling me negative things, I try to reduce, to limit also my communication with them. And so even if when I see some student, I try to tell them, well, everything is possible, everything is easy. And because if we start blaming people or starting finding, negative things about people, so then our brain will be busy and on negative things, and then
Yeah,
we will be losing our positive energy. Well, physical exercise is very, very important, again, to summarize it, because
yeah,
this is also very important for our people back home in Afghanistan, because there should be there is always a balance between mental health and also physical health. If physical health is not very good, then our mental health will be
yeah,
also,
for sure.
affected,
Uh,
in.
I would like to say that many young Afghan look up by the people like you because they see what is possible despite all these challenges. And as we have heard your story, that how you got from a camp refugee from Pakistan to the most leading institutions in the world like Oxford University, and they often wonder how to stay hopeful and continue pursuing their goals. um, I would like to ask this also as a last part of our episode, that if you could share one message with young Afghans who dream of making a difference in the world, what would it be?
Well, again, stay positive. Write down, whatever dream you have in your life. Forget about the resources in the beginning, because you will get the resources if your dream is, so specific, and you need to follow that dream. And again, as I summarize it, most of the doors or gates that you are seeing, they may look closed, but they are open. They just need a small push. If they need any support, they need to they can ask, for any kind of advice or support. So anyone with any specific dream, if they think positively and all the resources are available, but it's difficult to see them obviously very clearly, if they try their best and engage with communities, ask for help, ask for guidance, they will definitely get it. I think everything is possible. Just stay positive, stay committed, even in the crisis, stay positive. And maybe in one point, if I can tell you the last thing, behind every challenges there are also multiple opportunity. Evan, today in Afghanistan we are having, big challenges. I understand that one, specifically for the girls, but there is also 100 opportunity for the girls education, because if anyone from Afghanistan approach any university in the world and tell them that I am a girl specifically, and I completed my school and I'm trying to do, masters in every university in the world, as far as I know, there is a scholarship specifically for female. For male, there is also scholarship, but they need to approach, not one organization, 100 organization around them. And so this is one of the reason why I'm saying behind every challenge is multiple opportunities. Stay positive and try to go and search, whatever you want.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Haqmal Aziz, for providing this opportunity and for this great conversation. Honestly, I really enjoyed that. And I think I need to rewatch this episode many times. I'm sure there are a lot to gain from this conversation. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate your time and kindness.
My pleasure. It was also great pleasure, to have me here. And I think we will be able also to share our positive messages with most of our Afghans, young generation, to tell them that everything is possible. Come over and forget about the challenges and always think about positive things. I hope with this episode, I think we may be also able to guide, many students, to pursue, their educations and forget about the challenges that they are having. So always think about, the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hope to have you in
My
future
pleasure.
episode.
My pleasure. My
Stay
pleasure.
safe. Goodbye.
Thank you.